The Acting Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Lindiwe Zulu, has called on communities to assist in the fight against gender-based violence. Zulu was launching National Women's Month at a gathering in Durban, where she said South Africa has tarnished its international reputation with its high rate of gender-based violence.
South Africa's crime statistics continue to paint a grim picture of crimes committed against women. According to government, police statistics show that 9 women are murdered in South Africa every day. In the first 3 months of this year, 1,500 women were raped and 15,000 women were assaulted. Government says the scourge must be urgently addressed.
The issue of gender-based violence and femicide will not go away until we go house to house, street to street, community to community. Because house to house, we know who of the women are in any street. We know who are the women who are abused. On any street, we know where the families struggle because of gender-based violence. But we also know, street to street, house to house, what are the other social ills that attack and make life miserable for our women.
This year, Women's Month will be commemorated under the theme Accelerating Socio-Economic Opportunities for Women Empowerment. Speakers at the event called for the upscaling of government policies aimed at the upliftment of women. There were also calls for greater representation of women at all leadership levels, including in government.
It took 30 years in KwaZulu-Natal before they can have a woman. I mean, really? 30 years. Yeah. And I think when it comes to the next term, I would not want us to lose the sport. Because I know that in the last 30 years, when we were not in this position, our voices were not heard as much.
This year's annual commemoration will be held in Cape Town on the 9th of August. Simpiwe Makanya, SABC News, Durban.
All right, for more on this, we are now joined by the chairperson for the Commission for Gender Equality, Adv Nthabiseng Sepanya-Mogale, and she joins us via our Zoom link. Nthabiseng, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition. Of course, as we celebrate Women's Month, we're always dealing with something that is quite heartbreaking in our society, that is obviously gender-based violence and femicide in this country. Maybe if you can just tell us, how concerning is gender-based violence in South Africa?
Thank you for having the CGE once again. I'd like to start off by saying it actually is a sad day, because August the 9th, or rather what we now has termed Women's Month, is supposed to be representing in South Africa a victory of sorts, where women stood up against an oppressive regime that was bringing towards it as agenda further oppressive measures of carrying pass laws, not traveling in certain areas, not doing certain jobs, not being able to qualify in certain professions. And here we are today, instead of celebrating the victory over that, we lamenting how much we have gone backwards, how unsafe we feel, and how much this is not a celebration in any way, but rather a milestone where we need to look back and say what has gone wrong.
Yeah, and it's quite sad, really, where instead of celebrating this month, and we reflect on issues that affect women in this country, such as gender-based violence and, of course, and femicide in this country. Maybe just give us a bit of an insight in terms of what it actually looks like, what gender-based violence looks like in South Africa, and what femicide looks like in the country.
Gender-based violence manifests itself in many ways. It starts off with the emotional abuse that people experience in their relationships, right up to the sexual harassment that women experience in the workplace. So it's across the board. It's a value chain affecting different sectors. But it also now is hitting women in particular, even in social places where you dare not walk the streets at night lest you get attacked. It's frustrating. The manifestation thereof is so multifaceted that every sector of our society has become a potential platform for violence against women and gender-based violence. It also manifests itself through people just being harassed for their sexuality. We know the pressure that LGBTQI persons are experiencing in our country. It's not only harassment, it can lead to death. And the saddest thing about this is it started way back as early as 1992, and to date we're still battling with that. It's a whole array of ways in terms of how this manifests itself. But femicide as well, we're seeing more and more increases in violence that leads to deaths of women, and it's going more and more to younger and younger women. Some 2 weeks ago, as you know, in the Western Cape, a 14-year-old shot and killed another 14-year-old just for rejecting their approach, wanting to have an affair with them, and she said no, and it was almost, how dare you, and she was shot and killed.
Yeah.
So the manifestations said they are too close to home. They're violent in every respect and on an increase every day in our communities.
And we hear these stories every day, and just yesterday we saw another story trending of a partner who has allegedly assaulted their partner, and of course this is something that was making the rounds on social media, and we know now that that husband has been arrested because he's one of the suspects. Would you say, looking at that story, there was a woman found burnt beyond a recognition in her car, and of course it's the partner, the immediate partner, who's since been arrested. Would you say that the way in which a femicide and gender-based violence is now so brutal, it has changed somewhat to something so gruesome in this country?
Yes, in the first place, it shouldn't happen. Subtle or brutal, it shouldn't happen. But again, we must accept or admit that in South Africa it has become particularly brutal and horrendous. Which one wonders if what else is involved? Where is this level of anger and this level of violence coming from? What does it mean in other ways other than the way it shows itself and the way it manifests? It is too gruesome. Like you say, the burning of people burning their partners beyond recognition, 19 people being stabbed, 19 holes, people being shot and killed in front of children, or even the whole family being wiped out. Something has gone horribly wrong, if one could use that phrase.
And we often see these, cases and stories even make more headlines, whether it's during Women's Month or whether it's during these 16 days of activism against women and children. Would you say that, when these perpetrators go out of their way, to conduct matters of this gruesome nature, that there's some sort of significance when it comes to the timing in which they choose?
I think it's sheer coincidence, but I think why we associate it with usually Women's Month or 16 days period is because at that time we all are focusing on the issues of violence against women, or rather gender inequality in the country, and it becomes a slap in our faces if even during those periods where we have put in a lens on that issue, the violence is still occurring. But I actually think that to some extent, to a large extent, it's sheer coincidence. It happens throughout.
And of course, as we mark Women's Month, and we will of course celebrate Women's Day on the 9th later this month, you know, even though we're painting this very dark and grim picture of, you know, the issues that women are faced with, how would you say that we need to reflect on a day of this nature?
We need to reflect at different levels. At the level of saying, number one, we did it before. It was done in 1956, where a very gruesome, a brutal regime was defeated. It can be done again. Especially now that we've got a constitution, we've got a democratic context, you know, we've got rights that we know of that may not have vested 100% to us, but there's a context that is ripe for equality, although, you know, there are certain drawbacks. Secondly, we can actually say we need to use this time, like any anniversary, to reflect and say what could have gone wrong. Like I say, since 1992, you know, you have people being killed for no reason other than their sexuality. What does this mean? What could have gone wrong? But now we're also seeing children being killed. You know, why is this happening? But also look at our media in terms of the role that it's playing. When you have a headline that says so-and-so moors so-and-so, and then, you know, making it light, making it a joke, are you not in any way condoning certain things? When you question at the police station what a woman was wearing when they were violated, are you not in any way condoning or encouraging this? When you are a prosecutor or a police officer and refuse to take a rape being reported because the woman was drunk, are you not condoning it? Teachers who go to school and violate their students, and you have an SGB somewhere in the Eastern Cape saying we are sick and tired of getting these complaints about this school principal. It has got to stop now. It has been going on for 10 years. What are we saying? Have we been condoning it for 10 years? Where are the parents? What should we be doing? Let's reflect. And when we reflect, we must bring it home to say, what has been my role? What should my role be? What can I do? Even organizations such as the CGE, we need to say, what has been our impact over the 25 years that we have been in existence? Why is our impact minimal if it is minimal? What else can we do? So this is a time to reflect.
All right.
More than actually, you know, celebrating and commemorating.
All right. Advocate Nthabiseng, thank you so much for your contributions here. That is Adv Nthabiseng Sepanya-Mogale from the Commission for Gender Equality.